Welcome to the Red Half of Sheffield Preview Pod, match day 3. And as you guys can see, my favorite podcast is back on to preview top of the table 138 pointers. Watford against little old Sheffield United that might get about 45 or 50 points. From the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast, joined by, there should be 3 of them, but there's only 2 of them tonight, Justin and Pete. How are you fellas doing? Glad to have you back on the podcast. This is going to be fun.
We're very good, thank you very much. It'll be match day 4 though, won't it? I'm fairly sure. 3 games now.
Yeah, that's right. Match day 3 or 4.
We're looking ahead to match day 4. So no, lovely to be here. Yeah, sorry Carl can't be here. He's looking after various people who've flown in to come in and watch Watford. Most people would fly away to not watch Watford, but these people have been especially daft and come in. So what can you do?
Justin, how are you?
I'm very good, and it's nice to talk to you again. It seems like a while, so it's all good, mate. All very, very good.
I was hoping we got drawn in some cup games last year, and every time the draw came out, I was like, "Damn it, we got to play Wrexham. We got to play these guys. We got to play. Well, I want Watford. I want Watford."
I have to say, when I saw you draw Wrexham, I did think, "Oh no, that's kicking off again." But
yeah, well, luckily that game went how it should have went in a championship side when we basically put out our same team we played against Preston that weekend. And then they are a League One side, but yes, they do have a few championship players in there. They are a top end League One side, but we dispatched them, and thank God we didn't have, because when it came out, I was like, oh great, here we go. They're just gonna we're the greatest team, sliced bread, wow, go on and carry on. And they went quietly into the night, and we haven't heard a peep. And next year when they're in the championship, and they beat us, then we'll have to hear about it.
Well, I have to say one of the legendary moments on our podcast has been when we asked Chad, so what are you thinking of Wrexham then, as it was midway through that particular fracas in the a couple of years ago, and everyone kind of like posted, he doesn't like Wrexham, does he?
No.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Definitely not a fan of them. Although they're just a club. I think that the TV is, as much as it'll do, they'll drum up something out of nothing for no reason. Yes, we played into it, and we should have just went along and took care of our business. They went and beat us or drew us at the race course ground, and then when it came back to Bramall Lane, we beat him and put him away. Yes, did Billy Sharp do the crying thing? Yeah. Did he run his mouth? Of course, but that's Billy Sharp. I mean, what do you expect? So moving along, 3 wins out of 3, 9 points, 138 possible, 129 more left to go. Invincibles on the precipice of being invincible. Where in the hell has this come from? Because anywhere and anybody that was a talking head or talking hairdo, in the case of Justin and his great hair, had Watford at the bottom of the table. What the hell is this?
I wish we knew. I think it's many things, really. I think maybe Tom Cleverley may be behind a lot of it. I think the fact that he knows a lot of the players from playing with them or from being around the club. He knows the club. He knows the ownership. I think he is his own man. I think there's a lot of sort of question marks over him as though he'll just be a sort of a puppet and he'll be kind of told what to do. I don't think it is that at all. I think he's very quietly and very deliberately gone about his business in his way. And, we've got some players that actually look as if they're interested in playing. Georgie Czech for Dadsy's looking very, very good. We've got some, decent defenders that look like they want to defend. The team look like they want to play. We're scoring goals seemingly for fun. We're coming from behind in matches, which is something that traditionally we haven't been very good at. We've even scored direct free kick, which is like rocking horse droppings. So there's many things that have kind of come together at the right time. Uncharitable people might say, well, you haven't really played anybody yet, which is a criticism that I've had given to me from, well, you know, Richard Honey, don't you, Peter? Well, you've not played anyone yet. Well, hang on a minute. Yes, we have actually. You know, we have had some. No game's an easy game. You can only beat what's in front of you, right?
Mhm.
The biggest thing for me personally is that I'm actually enjoying football again, which hasn't been a thing for 2, 3, possibly 5 seasons. I'm enjoying going. It's actually a pleasure to go and think about, okay, we might have a chance in this game. We might actually play. And that's something that's been missing from my football experience for a long time. So long may that continue. A precipice of 138 points is, by any chalk, optimistic. It's a long precipice. I've got to say,
Oh God!
10 miles off the coast is where we are at the moment. So let's not get carried away. But no, very, very enjoyable. Very enjoyable at the moment. And but I think our first test might well come Saturday. So we'll see. We'll see.
Don't get your hopes up. Peter, over to you. What do you make of this 138 point undefeated Invincibles of the championship season?
Well, I mean, it's simply bound to happen now that you said it. No. We know what we are. Justin says he doesn't know, and it's a number of things. I agree with him in terms of it's a number of things, but I think there are a number of things that I do know that it is. But then there are going to be tens of thousands of Watford fans who also think that they know what it is, and it may well be different. For me, what is different is that we are playing currently still with the almost the remainder, if you will, of what was left of the first team squad last year, and our squads have been getting worse and worse and worse in terms of players. However, what's also been getting worse and worse in terms of that has been the actual kind of coordination, the teamwork, the playing together. People will know Tom Cleverley from his time at Man United and Everton and Villa and England, etc. But he's played more games for Watford than any other team. He played a lone season where he was absolutely outstanding and won Player of the Season in 2009 before he went on and had his career, and then he came back to us, and unfortunately his career ended through injury. And then at the start of last season, he became the under-18s manager, and he worked with the academy team. Now, this is the salient piece, I think, is if you look at Tom Cleverley, he has gone in and he started his coaching career. So, as Justin said, he is young enough to the player's age to be relatable. The people who played with him knew him. He was, and it still is really just an incredible uber professional. He concentrates on what he's doing. He takes it seriously. He does it. However, he is therefore only 8 months into, of course, as a development coach, right?
Mhm.
And a development coach in the under 18s or in the wherever, what they're fundamentally trying to do is improve the players that they have. He got 9 games at the end of last season, and he immediately got a reaction when we could see ourselves, yes, sitting in mid-table, but we were looking at it having been pretty much dreadful since Boxing Day, a day that Justin does not like, especially if football's being played on that, he disapproves. We had been plummeting like a stone, and the club, in fairness, kept Valerian Ismail in place for longer than anybody thinks was really wise. It was like, oh, come on, he should have gone 3, 4, 5 games ago. They bought Tom Cleverley in, and he turned the ship around with a result against Birmingham. It wasn't big, it wasn't clever, it wasn't funny. It was 1-0, it was attritional. And then we basically proceeded to pick up a whole bunch of points that kept us in and around mid-table. Even so, we were still only 6 points above relegation when it all finished, but he got more out of that lot than was possible. Pre-season and close season, the transfer activity has been underwhelming, but it's starting now to pick up. More of that in a minute. But what he's done is he's got a guy called Damon Lathrope, who was the former women's manager, but again, he's a development coach. He's got a guy called Armin Kawaja, a development coach. We've brought in a guy called Gilardo from Real Madrid B or Real Madrid Castilla. He is a long-term, high-level development coach. We brought in another guy who's only just kind of come in more for the kind of seniority tactics and kind of like trying to deal with an explosive board and ownership, probably. So the point is what he's done is he has improved the players. There is no doubt. And it's not just individually, it is collectively. We were looking at last season going, we've got nothing to come off the bench. What was on the bench previously, a lot of it is on the pitch.
Mhm.
You know, now what's what it wasn't even kind of getting to that particular point, is really enthusiastic. So we played yesterday Derby County. We won 2-1. They sat incredibly deep. They're all about 8'4" and 84 stone. They were just absolutely packing it out. And he made a substitution and he brought on a guy called Quadwo Bar, who we signed 2 years ago from Rochdale. He's been kicking around in the German kind of Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2 on loan for a couple of times, because sometimes we do that. He brought him on, and within 3 minutes, it was absolutely the right thing to do. We needed pace to burn, and he was able to come on and join, do the game. Only going back to the last League Cup game, he only came on at half time. The confidence and the impact that these guys are receiving and delivering is immense. So I think it is down to some good, hard, bloody coaching and a bit of judicious work in the transfer window. Hopefully, will improve us. 138 points though might be a stretch.
Now, okay, so please tell me that and I believe Justin, you led into it. Everybody thought Cleverly was just going to come in and just be a pawn and just do what the ownership said. But do you guys think he went in there in with a plan and laid it on and said, "Here, if you're going to make me the first team manager, this is what I want. This is what we're going to do. This is what is going to take us back to inevitably where Watford should be, challenging for promotion in getting promoted to the Premier League." And are they going to go, we've all seen what Watford's done over the last 5 years. They've had 479 managers. Are they going to go and fuck up a good thing and sack him just out of the blue and throw the whole season in a tailspin when they've clearly seen through, as you mentioned, the off season and now through the beginning of this season, it's carried on. They're going to keep, obviously they'd be stupid not to keep him in charge, but how does this in the most Watfordist way go tits up?
How are we going to shoot ourselves in the head?
Yes.
I do like this expression, that tits up, which I always thought was an English expression, but you're using it very well there, Chad. Well, first of all, he was brought in as interim manager, wasn't he? He was Ishmael got sacked, and he sort of had the last 9 games of the season, and then was made full-time manager. I don't think he's come in with a big plan about major changes and it's going to be done my way. And I also think any manager at Watford's a hair trigger away from being sacked, but I do think they might have learnt their lesson a little bit of this hire and fire culture, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Keep hiring and firing managers, and it certainly doesn't help when you hire managers like Claudio Ranieri and Roy Hodgson that just were never going to fit at Watford at all. So I think it's a shrewd move because it was kind of a non-gamble in a way to promote Tom Cleverly. But I think that their hand was kind of forced in that, other clubs might have been looking at him thinking, oh, he's done all right in those 9 games. Maybe we might, try and poach him. And I think they kind of secured him on a longer contract. So I think, I'd be surprised, considering the start of the season, before it all started, everyone's going, me, pundits, media, Watford doomed. They're absolutely doomed. They've not signed anybody. They're selling players right, left, and centre. They're not investing in the team. Watford are going down. So, if we work on that basis, even if we're sort of going to finish mid-table at the end of this, it doesn't make sense to move Tom Cleverly along. It makes sense to keep him because he's definitely building something, and that's something that we haven't seen at Watford for a very, very long time. Normally, we're importing players in and, higher paid, supposedly better talents to play and get us through things. Now it feels at last like we're building something, and it doesn't make sense to knock that down before the job's complete. So exactly. I would think it would take something monumental for them to fire him, touching wood, or Formica probably, as I say this. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Probably not, but that's the answer I gave anyway. So there you go.
It works. Pete, your thoughts?
I think the building analogy is an interesting one. He is building something. whilst we hadn't brought in additional players, they seem to now be coming in. The fact that you had the Copa America, the fact that you had the Euros, meant that Premier League clubs were not releasing their players for kind of optional loan or what have you until much later. So that's taken a bit of time. We've obviously gone for a few people. Things have some things have worked, some things haven't, which is interesting. I think in the absence of being able to sign bigger bricks to go in our wall, what he's done is he's concentrated on reinforcing the mortar. So what we are is a much stronger unit with what we already had in place. And that's pivotal because we've had a number of seasons whereby, the blocks that we've got are fine, but they don't interact, they don't interlock very well.
Yeah.
And it feels like this has gone well. The pre-season itself, with the exception, I would suggest, of an away game at Hibernian, which was a lot of fun because I went to that. That was lovely, where it was almost like a half first team squad, half kind of a development squad, which was great. I mean, and they played some of the best football we'd seen. It was pretty poor in terms of results, but everybody knows you shouldn't be really just looking at results. It's just trying to get miles in the legs. And Tom constantly spoke about our last friendly of the season, which was against Brentford at home, as the game that they were building to. But if you're seeing other people sign players such as yourself, you've won the you've signed the forward that everybody has been looking for in Kiefer Moore. Anybody in the Championship would have wanted him. We've been linked with him, God knows how many times, and you've gone and done some. So everybody looks at it and says, "Well, if they can do it, why can't we?" And the answer is, we've run out of our parachute money. We were losing £24 million operationally last year, and we had to sell in order to cover that. And we covered it and then some, but we're still kind of covering debt because, as you know, actually a journey to the Premier League, while everybody goes, brilliant, treasures of avarice, it isn't the case because actually all you're doing is getting a bigger bucket with a bigger hole.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, from what both of you guys have said, it's good to hear that it's not because Watford was just so synonymous with just, okay, we'll bring in a manager, throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. It didn't stick. Well, we brought some players in and they didn't work well, so we're going to send them out and sack the manager after 15 games. Let's do another one. And then it was the same progression. And I'm glad to see that now they seem to have a plan with Cleverly, and I hope it works out for them. And I hope they do surprise, because I've always, with us not being in this division last year, your Watford's results was the first result that I looked at when full time would go in the Championship to see, because I'm curious, because I enjoy listening to you guys and what you have to say, and you guys are very knowledgeable and you care a lot about this club, and just to watch that team almost in a sense crumble and then bring Cleverly in and be like, okay, maybe this is going to work, but how long is he going to be in charge before they say, oh, we're done? Oh, it's only an interim tag. Oh, so they're going to bring some guy from Europe in that's going to just drive them further into the ground. And then you hear everybody, oh, they're going to keep Cleverly as their manager. They remove the interim tag. And then everybody comes out and says, well, they're going to be terrible. They haven't signed anything. Just let the process work.
It is, yeah, but it's an interesting thing. But there are not many managers these days who've been at their clubs more than 2 years. And
It's very true.
I'm not apologising on behalf of the Pozzo model, but actually the difference between us and other clubs is normally about 6 months tenure, right? That's the honest truth of it.
Yeah.
And so, okay, yes, that 6 months tenure feels ridiculous when you go, well, you've had three managers in the last 2 seasons. You'd have had 3 in each season. You go, yeah, but when we actually got promoted back in 2015, 2016, we had 4 managers. I know it sounds daft, but this kind of daft model also brought around some success. The problem is that everybody's feeling towards their club is always captured in that moment of time. You followed the Blades, we follow Hornets. There have been some wonderful times, but it is a roller coaster all the way. There are, kind of, we all get promoted to the point of our own incompetence, otherwise known as the Premier League, where everybody kind of like runs out of oxygen and money and plummets. And it's how you deal with that. And we've dealt with it worse than some, but we've dealt with it better than others. But what's nice about us and our club at this moment in time is that there is a connection, to the players and to Tom Cleverley. A lot of the resistance from supporters saying, "I don't want Tom Cleverley to be the first team manager," was the fact that he has been with us for a long time, and they didn't want to sever that connection. And nothing severs a connection like going to Watford and calling yourself a manager. There's no such thing as a long service medal. So
It's true.
look, it is odd. It has been successful. It has fallen away. We have got a lorry load of debt still, but that is supposedly now only with the owner.
Mhm.
Now, we wait to see the accounts and see everything that goes through and what have you. But the communications have improved. But from the club, they've tried to do that. Does everybody believe everything that is said? No, because they've had a lorry load of evidence over the last 6 years to go. I think I might doubt that. That's fine. It's going to take a long time to turn that kind of reputational loss around. It doesn't take long to lose it. But in the Watford fans' case, it has taken a long time. A lot of odd decisions, a lot of odd acts of kind of almost self-sabotage and odd communication. And it's fine going against the tide in terms of how things are done, because just because it's been done like this for 100 years doesn't mean you necessarily have to carry on and do that.
Yeah.
But also, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing. Also, and what they have to do is make sure they bring the supporters with them, which is, I think, something that is slowly they are trying to work on and improve. Are they being pushed towards that rather than wanting to go voluntarily? Yeah, probably. But hey, they're a football club. Nobody's perfect.
Exactly. You're right. Moving on to Saturday. How bad's it going to be? 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 nil Watford. I mean, God, you guys. I mean, this is automatic 3 points in the bag. You're on 138 point.
Look, I mean, it's actually 4 out of 4 that we've won, because we also beat Milton Keynes Dons in the Carabao Cup, which
MK Dons in the Nobody Cares Cup.
Indeed, but 5-0. Normally we go out in that round, so
That's true.
and some. So yeah, we are scoring goals, and it's nice to see, actually, because if you were following Watford last season and looking out for the results as you would have seen lots of 0-0s. Plenty of times you walked away without seeing a goal on a Saturday.
Goal. I think you mean the word shot.
Shot, actually, yeah, shot on target.
Sorry.
When was that season where we won 1-0 and didn't have a shot on target? I can't remember when that was, but it was obviously some sort of deflection or an own goal, something that was bizarre. But anyway, so we are scoring goals now. So, I would think there will be goals in the game, but we conceded a very silly early, 90 seconds into the match goal against Derby. We have given away a couple of silly goals against Millwall. So, the defence still isn't quite there. We are supposed to be bringing in this West Ham defender. Is that actually happened yet, Peter? Is that actually confirmed, or?
It's not confirmed, but it's rumoured to be very close. Ogbonna, who is 36-year-old from West Ham. They absolutely
with his walker.
And he's all you really need to do is basically put him on the edge of the D. It's going to take you 3/4 of an hour to walk round him. I mean, that's fine.
Yes.
So he's a unit.
So defensively, perhaps a little bit fragile still, a little bit naive maybe in places, but I'm enjoying watching it. So, I don't think it's going to be 6, 7, 8-0 like you said. I think it's going to be a tight game. Away, we've only seen one away game, of course, which was Millwall. We haven't seen any others yet. So, hardly tried and tested away from Vicarage Road. So, if you want me to give you a score prediction, I would think there's going to be goals in it. This could be our first draw. I mean, this streak has to end at some point. This winning streak, so this could well be our first draw. So a 1-1 or a 2-2, no one's going to be massively disappointed if we go away to Bramall Lane and draw. No one's going to be upset with that. So yeah, I think it could be a draw, but obviously I hope we win, because I'm really, really enjoying this little run we're on at the moment.
Yeah, go on, Pete.
I think anybody would have taken 9 points going into the international break. So right. It means that not that Saturday is a free hit or anything like that. I think we look at your squad, and I think it's been very intelligently compiled. Genuinely, I think it's built for the Championship. I think it's
We don't
odd
have
that
any depth.
you've had point to anybody in the Championship, and we said exactly the same thing. You develop the players that are in your stable, you have depth that you don't know about. I know it sounds daft, but it's true. If you've got a manager who focuses on results and results only, and a club that does that, then you don't have any depth. We really thought we got no game changers, and as I say, suddenly we find, oh, this guy has been kicking around on loan for 2 years because he wasn't deemed good enough. Has, I think that was it, his first, or it might have been his second kind of run out, coming on for 15 minutes, and he was absolutely a game changer. He can do that. You've got, the most exciting one for me is you've gone and got Raksaki, who is a phenomenal player and one that I wanted for about the last 18 months. When he was at Charlton, he was absolutely pulling up trees. And you got Kiefer Moore, who, okay, he's 32. He's probably, he's not as mobile as he probably once was, but he's got so much more nous than he ever had. I think if we came there and we're looking at you, and you've got O'Hare, and you've got Hamer, and you've got an awful lot in there. Your signings that you have made just need to gel. And then I think I think most people have you and Leeds as perhaps 1 and 2 for the season. It might not have started well yet, but we are 3 games into a 46 game season. So there's a long way to go. We're just very happy with where we are at this moment in time, because what we're seeing is performances, we're seeing commitment, we're seeing front-footed football, and that is leading to chances and opportunities. And in the meantime, off and away from the pitch, Tom Cleverley has not put a diplomatic foot wrong. Everything he says is as we see it, because you know what it's like when you have a manager who you look at it and you go, that was atrocious, and they come out and go, well, actually, I think we performed really well, and you're going, what the are you talking about? But we've had that like 20 times, in about 6 months. All of these guys who kind of wheel in, and you think you bought them in, they're supposed to be the end of the world, and they're really, really not. He is understated. He kind of talks clearly. He calls it as he see it, and we recognize exactly what he's saying and why he's saying it, and that's a huge amount of comfort, and that gives you connection to him as an individual beyond what he did in the playing days. The ownership and the management, that still has further to go to either correct itself or do otherwise. So we will see. But he's earned a lot of plaudits, and hopefully the connection between the fans can become a bit stronger. That would be great.
Yeah, I hope it is, and I hope you guys do get it, stay on the right track, and go to where you, as a club, Watford as a club, need to be. Because you look at the table last year and you're like, what the hell's going on with them? I figured they would have been closer to the top, and then it just kept going on and on and on. You're looking like nil.
Only 6 points off from relegation, really. It was looking quite dodgy at the end.
Yeah, it was. It was, in a sense, because I mean, there was like half a dozen teams that were between you and the bottom, but it's just like, you screw around in a couple of games and the results don't go your way, you're right there.
Under Valerian Ismail, we went in chunks of games. We won the first game 4-0 against QPR. To be honest with you, Justin and I could have played up front. We'd have probably got a goal each against QPR at that point. What's commonly known as the Gareth Ainsworth effect. He was awful. Yeah. We went in that, we drew with Plymouth, and then we lost a cluster of games through till about October. Then we got a win against Sheffield Wednesday. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't great, and we got a cluster of wins that took us through to, as we say, the game before, if I remember rightly, was it Blackburn? I think, yeah. We had a game away at Preston and absolutely battered them. We had a game against Preston, and then we got to Boxing Day, and thereafter, having done so well, it all collapsed, and we got like 3 wins out of about 15. It was just shocking in terms of the results. Previous, you'd felt that actually, because I said that all the teams or the playing staff, so to speak, had been getting worse progressively. I mean, it's what happens when you come out of the Premier League. You have to cut your cloth accordingly.
Yeah.
But because you were seeing effort in the first part of that kind of good bit between October and December, people started to get a bit of a connection to it and with it. Not just so transparent as it just being we won, so we like them. But actually, this was a less expensive team. We liked it a lot more than the rubbish that we'd had the previous season. I think when that kind of failed and curtailed, once it got to those 9 games remaining and Tom came in, you got a bit more of a connection. You got that kind of common will, and you feel that at the ground. It will be interesting to see what happens away at Sheffield United. In terms of the goals against, I don't actually think we are that permeable as a defence, genuinely. Justin's absolutely correct. We gave a goal away because we just didn't wake up, and they just kind of pushed it around, and it was a great finish, in fairness. Derby, fair play to them. But it was 90 seconds in, and nobody decided to try to make a tackle. The 2 get away against Millwall, which is probably kind of a bit more interesting, is the fact that we are playing passing football. We will kind of mix it up, but we are playing passing football. We were errant passes. I mean, just we gave the ball away. Nobody ever turns around and says we've conceded a goal and it was a great goal. They always look at what they could have done to prevent it. But our goals are all considered glorious and wonderful, and nobody could have ever stopped it. No, we have shot ourselves in the foot by either not applying ourselves in the opening kind of 2 minutes of the game, and or giving the ball away in stupid areas. That was in the first game. They've stopped that. Since then, we've conceded that 1 goal. So, it was a bit of an issue. What was pleasing was we didn't panic. We kept playing that passing football and pulled ourselves back into the game. And then when they were sitting so deep, and that seems to be what Derby are doing this season, is making sure they're kind of in and tough to beat. Cleverly was tactically wise enough to be able to select not necessarily the most likely substitute, but one who came on and was a real impact. And that's what you need from your subs. He did it, and it opened it up.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, close up shop here. This question comes in from one of our own, Dublin Blade. He commented on the last video of the Norwich preview. He said, if you do a preview pod with the Watford guys next week, do not scratch your eyes. Ask them which is the worst skid mark they've had. They will know what that is.
I have no idea what he is talking about. This got to be Carl, right? Has this got to be aimed at Carl?
Carl. Well, I know. I do know what it is. So Carl, who isn't with us today, he does matchday vlogs, and he goes off and he reviews pies or food there, and he basically gives it a number of skid marks out of 10. And of course, Norwich City is the home of Delia Smith, TV chef supreme. And yeah, he has on occasions gone in and said, "I'll give that 3 skid marks out of 10." But I think he's always said actually the good one is at Norwich. You'd expect it to be. I mean, you wouldn't you hope that wouldn't be awful. I think the worst one would clearly be Luton Town, because you wouldn't want to go in there and eat anything that had been prepared in that postcode, to be quite frank, let alone the ground. So there you go.
Yeah, I had no idea what he's talking about, but he said ask you guys. All right, that's going to put a bow on this bad boy. You guys, let the people know where they can find the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast.
Well, if you want to know more about skid marks, you're going to have to go to YouTube, because that's Carl's baby. At DNSYE podcast, I believe we are on there. Everywhere else we're DNSYE _podcast. That's Spotify, Apple. I think that must be us also on Instagram as well, I think. So, yeah, just look up Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast. We're knocking about somewhere, usually found quite easily.
Yeah, I would suggest anybody that hasn't listened to these guys, definitely give them a listen. The work that they do, I mean, they're on my X or Twitter feed or whatever the hell you want to call it. They're on there all the time. They are definitely pumping out the content, and it's quality content. And I'm glad to have met both Pete and Justin over the last few years of doing this. But if you haven't done so, follow us on Red Half of Sheffield on YouTube, at Red Sheffield on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. Me, Jarvis _13 on the old X Twitter. Until match day 5, when I have another preview, I will leave you with Up the Blade.